Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. To all my graceful audience, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Rahmat Empowerment Wala, striving to achieve self sustainability for me and for the people alike. I'm host of this interview series named Empowering Minds. Today, we have a very special guest named Pia Jensen. She's from Marina Del Rey, Los Angeles, California. She's 25. She has 25 years experience in coaching. Uh, we'll learn from him how to be successful, how to be a successful leader, the qualities of a good leader and a good coach. So without wasting any more time, let's jump towards her. Hello, Pia. How are you?
I am great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for your time and your presence here in my show.
You are so welcome. I love the name of your show. It's a great
Thank you.
topic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, to follow the pattern, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, I am. I call myself now a success catalyst for leaders in small, medium sized businesses. What I do is I focus a lot on empowering minds, actually. So, and I do that by focusing on people's innate talents and building businesses where people are happy and where people perform and where you have a great company culture.
Excellent, ma'am. So, as I said, you have 25 plus years experience in guiding sales leaders to success and coaching. So could you share some of your key insights? How was the experience has been, and what would you like to share your journey with us?
Yeah, coaching is something that I've done actually all my life. So it's more like I've spent like 25%, 25 plus years just exploring different modalities, if you will. And my mission, I think, from being a kid was always this thing. I wanted more happy people. Because if people are happy, then they will behave in different ways and they will be more considerate of other people around them as well, even if there's different opinions, but there will be more respect, right? Um, so to me, if you repeat the question again, please, so that I can get in my track.
No problem, ma'am. I asked you about your journey of this 25 years journey. Would you
Yeah.
share some key insights how well the journey is being a coach and being a uh, leader coach?
That key insights, I guess, going back to this thing with, being a kid, like, so for me, I've always been an explorer. I've leaped into new business areas. I've tried a lot of different things, both in business as well as in personal growth, exploring body, mind, soul, heart, as I like to call it. And when you take a lot of courses, which I've done, you start seeing patterns of similar messages but expressed from different perspectives. So that's sometimes also how you see that there's certain things that every teaching, no matter what it is, will always that will be consistent, right? Integrity being one of them, right? If we're in integrity, it's not about not being able to change your mind. Rather, it's about communicating. So if you're running late to a meeting, don't say that, oh, it was traffic. Like that's what people use here in LA, for instance, right? It's like, no, I left late. I'm very sorry. Can we, does this still work for you that we meet 15 minutes later or whatever the time is? Or do we need to reschedule? That way you get back in integrity, right? So to me, I think in many ways, one of the key insights in my journey is communication or the lack thereof. As long as the lines of communications are open, you can overcome anything. And when you tap into the talents that we all have, everyone has unique talents that either has been developed or not, depending on where you are in the world, what the environment is, and I'm talking about everything from family, friends, environment, if people are cheering you on or if people are trying to bring you down. So to me, the key insights are, first of all, embark on the personal, journey, because it all starts always with you, even as a leader. If you're going to be a great leader in life, you need to kind of know what you bring, the value you bring, your leadership style, how you can contribute to your team. And that goes on a personal level as well, at home with friends, family, etc. So, and the magical thing to me, when you go into a talent based focus, which is what I focus on nowadays, is when you kind of embrace who you are and what talents you have and what talents you don't have, it's easier to delegate to other people and really appreciate what they have as talents that you don't have. And when you start exchanging, what you're great at with, what I'm not so good with, and vice versa, you create a really, win-win scenario, as I call it. But it's like, it's really empowering for both parties, because both parties will be energized, right? So focus on developing yourself, find your innate talents, communicate, um, be kind. I mean, it doesn't cost anything. Like, smile. I mean, a smile can change, the day of someone else that is having a crappy day. That doesn't cost a dime. Um, and it's fun to explore as well, right? It's fun to explore the inner world. There's so much going on outside the realities that we are. So when we explore the mind and spirits and heart, so to speak, to me, it's kind of like I'm guided by my internal, what can I say, gut feeling, if you will. It feels good in the heart. I'll follow that over the brain, because the brain is sometimes tapped into primal fears, if you will. Um, you just have to stay the course, even if the external circumstances sometimes throws us for a loop and detour. It's still, follow your heart and just focus on the result, the end result that you want to see for yourself as much as you can, so that you don't, stay in the muck, if you will, right? Because if you're not feeling good, so to me, that brings in the energy portion, right? Like, when we raise our energy internally, good stuff comes to us. Nice people, opportunities. But when we're not in that energy level, when we don't feel good, life occurs very different. And we attract, if you will, situations that just make it worse unless we choose it, and to pivot, so to speak. And that's on us, right? We have to take responsibility for ourselves and who we're being, and not blame others. The one thing we have control over in our lives is how we react to stuff. If people are treating us in a bad way, you can simply just pivot and leave, right? If you have the opportunity, but simply also realize that what comes out of our mouths, even now as I speak, that's my perspective. It doesn't mean that that's the truth, it's my truth. And then, as a listener audience, you can just take that in and look and inquire within yourself to just see, is this true for me or not? And never take in things that are not true for you. Follow your own, the beat of your own drum, as one teacher says.
Excellent, ma'am. You described very well. So you said about communication. Which is, we know, very important in every aspect of field and every corporate world. So some could you give some tips on communication, how to make better communication?
Well, that's a tricky question in a sense, because to me, it's all about who you are and how what the environment looks like. I mean, it's one thing if it's your friends and your culture, of course, as well. Like, you live in a reality that is very different from me, and I grew up in Sweden, where it was equality. So there was no difference per se, men or women, right? And then I moved to the US, where it varies because you have the entire world in a way, living in the US, right? People from all over the world live here. So there's a lot of different cultures. So depending on who you have around you, I mean, I think it all starts with being interested in the person you have in front of you. I love meeting people that are different than me, or, because you can always find something to talk about for an evening, is my philosophy, right? So if you're at a dinner, company dinner, or, you're out somewhere and you end up talking to people, just ask them about their story. What's their journey been, right? Like, what have their experiences been? Like, what have been the favorite parts of, their life so far? What have their lessons and insights been? What makes them thrive? And I think it's all about asking questions, but people are not always open to that, right? So you have to kind of feel into, like, you start with hi, hey, I'm Pia. It's like, how are you today? You start with the shallow phrases, right? And then you kind of have to tune into, like, you know, is there a flowing conversation? So you just throw out a question. And sometimes you have to, just sit it because they're simply not interested in it. And I think that goes back to that thing with energy levels, right? That we all operate on different energy levels in different areas of life, right? So, we could be very evolved, but suck in other areas, right? So it's like no one is perfect. And that's the beauty, I think, of we're all perfectly imperfect. So just embrace who you are, right? So start the conversation. And if people can't receive you, as I call, that's normally like when people, if you try to talk to someone that is angry or sad, that don't want to be picked up, you're just wasting your effort because they're not going to be happy with you. They will lash out because they can't receive you. So all you do is just, hi, how are you doing? And smile and walk away, so to speak. So I guess that's the short answer. I mean, for me, it's so dependent on the situation, so to speak.
Okay, ma'am. Great. So coming towards leadership, the one of your forte topic.
Mhm.
So, what qualities do you think a leader must have in order to lead a team towards success?
See, to me, it's not about degrees, it's about awareness. It always goes back to the human because even as a leader, some people are born leaders. I'm sure you've experienced that yourself, even as you were a kid, right? Some of us ended up in roles, like I always ended up in roles where people came to me or where I took charge or whatever, right? So some of us have that drive within us that has nothing to do with what university you went to, let's say, right? Of course, you want to have basic education. You want to have awareness and know how of what happens outside of your country, for instance, right? Have a little global awareness of, if nothing else, top level, and then diving in deeper into the areas that you feel passionate about so that you become an expert in that. So leadership can show up in so many different ways, but the difference between great leaders and bad leaders has a lot to do with the person either not having done any growth work themselves and being ego-centered and not caring about people. To me, it's like I work with heart-centered leaders, people leaders that care about their people because I've seen the magic that happens in companies when you are a leader that just care about your people. If you're interested in your people, then people will have your back as a leader. And that's how a leadership can be created. If you just care about your people, you need to obviously know what you're doing, right? But I've spent my years in entrepreneurship. So I've spent there's been many people that have been highly educated, professor level, if you will, but they were the ones thinking and not necessarily building the company. So having spent, over 30 years with salespeople and in a sales organization, not all of them have college degrees necessarily, but they have an ability to connect with people and sell the product that is created, which the professor might not be able to do. So there's leaders in every area, and everyone also, as I mentioned in the beginning, has innate talents. So Some of us talk a lot, we influence and we're animated. Other people are more silent and lead in that way. But I think the common denominator is being interested in your people if you want to be successful as your leader, listening to the feedback from the different teams and um, and just communicating. And so to me, it doesn't have anything to do with your school, but I'm also basing that on having been educated, obviously. So you want to go through, at least high school and then maybe a little extra curriculum from that, right? But focusing on the topics that actually will help you in your path. I mean, I started out as a nurse, so yes, that taught me a lot about life and death and humanity and working with people that were sick, right? And so it still served me from a awareness level, but as a degree, it didn't do me any good at all. And that happens with many of us because we have to choose our career so early in life before we even know what we really want to do.
True, ma'am. True. Uh, so you have summed up excellently again about leadership. If we talk about personal growth, how would you help or guide a person who thinks he's stuck in his career, and how would you advise him to so that he can lead to a path towards success?
Yeah, so the innate talents that I keep on talking about, it's I use an assessment as a base. I use several, but one in particular that I start with. That from that one you get a report that is unique to you, and then we use that as the map, if you will, to just start the journey because that one, shows your innate talents. And often when we're stuck, it has to do with our the talents that we have that we are not utilizing for whatever reason. It could be that we're in a culture where we're not allowed to express this, so it brings us pain, or we're overusing it. We get stuck in our head as well. So I use a lot of mindset, um, like visualizations, very light, just tap into the conscious and subconscious mind. So I have a lot of short meditations that people can listen to on a variety of topics at their leisure. Everything I do when I coach people is when I do the one-on-one coaching has to do with very personalized, unique journey based on their needs. So I look at like both the business side and the personal side because what happens in business, if you're stuck in business, it impacts your personal life as well. So you have to look at the big picture, if you will. And doing it with your innate talents makes it a fun and ease-filled journey because you're focusing on what you have a talent in. So just like in sports, right? When you're assigned a specific, placement or role, if you will, you work on getting better at that instead of focusing on what you suck at, so to speak, right? So it's the same with this. I focus on like first, building people up so that they get their value, what they bring, and who you are as a leader. And then, the frustration that some people have when you're stuck, it could be that it's a talent that you don't have, that you simply need to delegate this task to someone on your team that would love to do that. Even if they have a completely different role, that doesn't mean that you can't delegate that as a side project. And then, reward them for it, of course, as well. So that's also how you can create an engaged company. I did that myself in my previous, when I was still, employed. I had people that I delegated things that weren't direct reports, but they loved doing these particular tasks. So that was great because they got energized by doing it and they were allowed to contribute. And I, didn't have to do that stuff, right? I could just, look at the end result. So that made me happy too.
Excellent, ma'am. Ma'am, every field has challenges, and you must have faced challenges too. So how do you face challenges and how do you cope with them?
Well, again, it goes back a lot to my talents because one of the talents I have is I live in the now and the future, if you will, right? I look at the past to learn from the past as well, but I stand a lot in the vision of what I know is possible. I have a positive glass half full kind of attitude just innately. Like I was born happy, so to speak, right? So I will, that's what drives me forward. So for me, it's, I'm strategic and solutions focused. So when stuff happens, it's just everything from researching to talking to people to inquire within, journal, listen to a variety of topics that calls to me. At this point, I've what can I say? I've learned to be with most of the topics, but there's always new challenges, right? So it's depending on the nature, and how it's perceived. It goes back to the mind. In our mind, one thing can be horrible for you and it's easy for me. So it's a mix of our mindset and, the life and experiences, the experiences we've had in our life, right? Um, so how I approach it will be different, but I tend to, you know, it would be easier to say like, how do I learn? When I learn, I go wide and deep, right? I research everything and I go really, really deep and look at different areas. And once I have all the content, then it kind of, I get that feeling inside that I have the knowledge that I need. I know where to go if I need more information, but then I can just focus on my instinct. And it's the same, when there's a problem, right? There's always a solution. So you just assess the situation, um, tap into the big picture and the scope of things, like, what do I need to do about it? And then if you need help, ask for help.
Excellent, ma'am. Okay, ma'am, tell me about your hobbies if you have some, and do you like to read books? As every successful person likes to read books.
Yes, I love to, I've been a lifelong reader since I was a kid. So I don't know how many books I've read. And for the past 20 years, it's been very focused on business type books, if you will. But now and then I'll have, a non-business book that I read. I haven't had much time to do that because I've been so focused on building my business in recent years. But yeah, I have both Audible and Kindle, lots of books. That is always on my list. So I think that that's important, and that's also, even as a child, to start reading because that's how you can stimulate your mind and learn by following other people's journeys, right? And the magical thinking, and so everything using both right and left brain, so to speak.
Excellent, ma'am. Ma'am, coming towards my favorite question, which I usually ask my guests, what advice would you give to a 20 years younger version of Pia Jensen that you feel that you could have done better 20 years ago and you will find yourself in a better situation right now?
I would have made sure to, well, 20 years ago, I would have said if it's 30 years ago, even long further ago, but Pia in her 20s, I would say, right? If I would have had access to the assessment that I help these leaders with, my life could have been on a different trajectory because I would have focused on different skills within myself and leaped earlier on in my life, I guess, to just nurture those talents that I had that I didn't know were talents. I'm talking about things like, I can talk a lot. And, I would have honed my skills as a speaker, for instance, right? And worked on that line more, for instance. But then, I'm not a person also who looks back and regrets what I've done because all the different experiences that I did, yes, there's tons of things that I could have, avoided that I wouldn't do again. But at the end of the day, I am who I am because of all those experiences. I find that for me, the motto is live full out as much as you can, explore. And if you make a mistake, if you fail, that is better than not trying at all. And you grow actually through these, as much as I don't like, misery or feeling crappy or being in those type of situations, you learn what you don't want to experience again. So you pay attention, you open up an awareness, in that, right? So I've had a lot of, you know, I've had a great life in so many different ways. I've had a lot of challenges, but I haven't seen them as challenges. I think that's the difference, right? They've just been like, okay, here's something I need to solve, so it's not, you do the best that you can, make lemonade out of lemons, so to speak, right? So my attitude has just been, just move forward. And so yeah, so I think it's like those assessments, having access to them younger in my life. Like there's nothing that brings me more joy that when I coach someone that is 25, 30 years old and give them access to it, to have that self-confidence and self-awareness early in life, because that will shape them as leaders, as employees, as entrepreneurs in life, because everything comes from within. If you're confident and I think that's a big thing. I had confidence as well, but I was oblivious as well, right? So that's part of growing up.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. You were frozen there for a while.
I think there's internet disruption here, ma'am. I'm very sorry. Uh, have you completed your answer? I couldn't hear the last part of it.
Oh, what did I say? I don't remember what I said. Bottom line is, it's all, if I had access to, yeah, what brings me the most joy is when I coach, people that are 25, 30 years old with this assessment that I have, because when they get confidence and self-awareness on a level that most 25, 30-year olds wouldn't have. And that will change their trajectory in whatever profession they're exploring, but also most importantly, inside, they'll be confident because they'll know what they bring, what their value is, which is often the reason why we sell out, I guess, right? Because we don't necessarily, if we don't have people around us that believe in us and we don't believe in us, that's a tough, path to walk. So if you know that you have value, that you are unique, that you are a gift, no matter what your circumstances are, you can create a life from a different platform. So um, that's something I wish I would have had when I was in my 20s myself. It would have put me on a different trajectory, I think, slightly with a different focus. I guess the focus would have been different. Who knows? It might have played out the same way, but at the end of the day, I'm happy with who I am. So
Can you hear me, ma'am?
I hear you now.
I'm very sorry for the disruption. Don't know why it is happening here, but I'll try to sum up this interview session. The reason I asked this question because if someone from that age is listening to us, so they can adopt that advice and implement in his or her life and become a better person.
Absolutely. I mean, when you know that because it's about when you're younger, there's a lot of ego running the show, and some people never stop being run by the ego. And the ego is not like a nice, you know, normally like people that have ego running them are
Can you
very
hear me, ma'am?
self-centered. I can hear you now.
Yes, ma'am. Now I can hear you, ma'am. It's so
Okay, good.
disruption here.
Yeah.
I love
So
to talk to you more and would seek knowledge, but today is not allowing me to do that, so I'll have to
can you say that again? You broke up. Your internet is acting up. That's what happens sometimes when you're in different parts of the world. But hopefully you can all hear and see me. So hopefully, so we're still live. Here comes Rimat. Okay,
Yes, ma'am. I'm coming. I'm back. I'm back.
there you
I'm
are.
so sorry for the internet disruption.
No, that's not your fault.
Much.
Don't worry about it. I think you froze again. So, bottom line is find a coach where you are or someone you can talk to. I think that's one of the things that is super important to just, and if you don't have anyone around you, just get, read books about self empowerment to just explore that as early as you can in life. Um, because it will benefit you as you start working and go on the career path of your choice. I'm just filling in here, Matt, since the screen froze instead of just sitting. So it looks like you are frozen again.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your presence here. And I would love to talk to you more and seek knowledge from you, but this internet is not allowing me to do that. So I have to sum up this session. Thank you so much for your presence here, ma'am.
You are so welcome. It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Stay
Thank you.
connected to me, ma'am. I'll learn many more things from you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. So, bye, ma'am. So, audience, that was Pia Jensen, and I hope you have learned so much new things from her. I have learned myself, and I'll see you next time, next guest. Take care. Bye bye.